Welcome to Heroes Have Wings, the podcast that gives a voice to the unsung heroes of Army aviation. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. For the Army aviators, crew chiefs, and flight medics who put it all on the line in the heat of battle, this is their opportunity to share untold stories of courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable will. From their beginnings to the battlefield, you hear about their hardships, the moments of doubt, and how they overcame impossible odds to save lives. These warriors didn't just fight for survival, they put others above themselves, embodying the true spirit of heroism and selfless service. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Heroes Have Wings. Today's guest is living proof that where you start doesn't define where you're going. Marcus Stephen Barton grew up in chaos, abuse, addiction, broken homes, and a kind of pain that most people don't make it through. But instead of becoming a product of his environment, he became a soldier, a MEDEVAC warrior, and a man of purpose. He went from nearly destroying himself to flying into combat zones to save others. And when the battlefield was behind him, he faced a new one at home, choosing faith, family, and the fight to rebuild his life. Now he's a devoted husband, a father, a craftsman, and a man who lives to serve. Stephen isn't here to tell you life is easy. He's here to show you it's possible. Redemption is real, faith is real, and your future is still being written. Stephen Barton, welcome to Heroes Have Wings.
Hey, Jason, it's awesome to be here. I'm really glad to have this opportunity and to share my story with others. And man, it's good to see you again.
Man, it's good to see you too. I'm glad I reached out. You know, we're on a post together. One of the episodes I released earlier, probably 2 weeks ago. I think Derek said, "Hey, we need to get Barton on the show." I was like, "That's a wonderful idea." So that's when I reached out to you. So let's get it started, man. Quick hits. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Coffee, energy drinks.
Coffee.
City life or country living?
Country living.
Summer heat, winter cold?
Winter cold, man.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You're the first one. Movies or books?
Books.
Dog person, cat person?
Dog person.
Beach vacation, mountain retreat?
Mountain retreat.
Wake up early, stay up late?
Oh, that's changed over the years. I would say wake up early.
And your wife's expecting, right?
She is. We're 39 weeks as of yesterday.
So you're going to be waking up a lot earlier.
Oh, I am.
With the baby coming. So congratulations on that. Action
Thank
movies
you.
or comedies?
Action movies.
Camping or road trip?
Camping.
Texting or calling?
I like calling.
Why do you like calling?
With texting, you don't really get the emotional responses that you would get talking to somebody over a phone call.
Nice. All right, man, let's get it started. Let's talk about your childhood, where you grew up, and what essentially got you into the Army.
All right, let's do it.
So where'd you grow up at?
So I was born in Athens, Georgia, and I went all the way up to fifth grade in Oconee County. And then my parents got divorced when I was 3 or 4, and then we moved to my mom and my stepdad. She got married while we were still in Oconee County. We moved to Cleveland, Georgia, which is up in the mountains. Pretty small town. Used to be a small town. It's not anymore. Um, I spent the rest of my adolescent years in Cleveland, Georgia. I didn't. I didn't really finish high school up there. There's a lot of dynamics with that, and I'll get more into that the more we talk about my childhood. But I grew up in Cleveland, Georgia.
Okay, nice. You remember your parents getting divorced?
No, I don't. I don't. I remember parts of them being together. Um, just bits and pieces, like learning when I learned how to ride a bike or a Christmas or something like that. I remember stuff like that, but I don't remember them getting divorced.
Now, you talked about when your mom got remarried. That first remarriage was pretty contentious. Let's lightly talk about that. With you being in that situation, how do you think it created the man you are today? And with you being a father now, how to be a good father?
I would think it impacted me greatly.
Mm-hmm.
to put it in simple terms, but not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's made it pretty difficult for me to be a really good father. I really have to watch my attitude, and how I approach things. He was a very negative person. Um, not saying anything against Marines or anything like that. He's a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very headstrong, very egotistical, type A Marine behavior. Um,
I was gonna say we nothing against Marines, but we are pretty much a lot of them live
yeah,
up to that stereotype, right?
yeah. But I mean, I also got a lot of I still had a lot of pride in military and service members and
Mm-hmm.
stuff growing up. A lot of my family on my mom's side served in the military. And so that didn't affect my choice in joining the military at all. Obviously, here I am,
Yeah.
talking to you about, being in the military.
Did you?
But as far as being a father, that has made it difficult. And the absence of my dad, not being around him as much as I would have liked to, has
Mm-hmm.
made it very difficult.
Did you guys ever rekindle that relationship with your real dad?
Um, I I actually lived with him a little bit when I was in my teenage years, and I worked with him at a custom cabinetry shop. Um, but him and I, when I was younger, we were really close. Nowadays, he is honestly too busy to really have a lot of relationships with people. He's remarried. He has two kids with his current wife,
Mm-hmm.
and I talk to him every now and then. Mostly it's holidays, his birthdays, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I reach out and I've visited and everything, but it's not that close, tight knit relationship that I desired a lot when I was a kid.
Mm. How's your relationship with your mom?
It's pretty good. It's had some ups and downs, but I would say for the most part, it's pretty good. I mean, she's going to come down and watch my 3-year-old daughter while my wife and I are in the hospital
Mm-hmm.
um, with our baby. So, she's in our lives. She's wanting to be more a part of our lives, and she's learning. Um, she's learning how to be, I guess, a better mom and a good grandmother as
Yeah,
well.
that's good. That's good. It's never too late for her to, rekindle and rebuild those relationships. Siblings, how many siblings you got?
See, I
Well,
have
siblings you
three.
grew up with.
Well, yeah, I have three brothers and one sister. Um, I mainly grew up with my older brother, Josh. He's 2 years older than me. Him and I have always had a pretty difficult relationship. We've always kind of fought, head-butted and stuff. But it's not as difficult these days. We're a lot more mature with things when we get around each other. We typically handle things with more respect. My next, or the brother that's younger than me, he's 9 years younger than me, and that was my another one of my mom's sons. Um, we grew up a lot together when my mom and his dad were still together.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they got divorced, he went with his dad. His dad got custody of him, so that kind of made the relationship difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of difficult family dynamics and stuff. But my dad, his two kids, I have a brother and a sister on his side. Them, I had somewhat a relationship with. You know, we're not as tight knit, I guess. But we still love each other like
Mm-hmm.
siblings.
Yeah.
Um, and every now and then we'll see each other, usually at family events, stuff like that. But yeah.
With you growing up with all that adversity at a young age and throughout, middle of high school, how do you think that prepared you for the things that were going to come in life? For example, the combat, being in the army. Do you think that adversity at a young age got you ready for those things?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, Jason. With the difficult family dynamics that I had growing up, it actually made it pretty easy to go off to basic training.
Hmm.
I didn't really get homesick. I didn't really miss a whole lot because so here's another little bit about my childhood is when I was, I would say 12, I got sent off to a Christian boarding school,
Mm.
and I was there for a few years. I was there, and then so I kind of during that time I got used to being away from my family. So that whole homesick kind of experience, it didn't really affect me joining the army. I would say the biggest thing that I had an issue with, I guess, was just trying to figure out who I was.
Mm.
And I think the army helped me out a little bit with that. Also building my self-confidence a lot as well. So,
What was the reason they sent you to a boarding school?
I actually used to get in a lot of fights in school. Um, but it wasn't fights like I wasn't picking on people. I was getting mad at people who were picking on other people, and I was
Mm.
fighting them. So I didn't get along with bullies too well. I had a fair amount of friends. I still have people that remember me from middle school and high school. So you know, I had a fair amount of friends. It's just bullies. I didn't like bullies, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't like them either growing up. Where do you think you got that protective spirit from?
You know, I'm not really sure. I don't know. I didn't like people I didn't like people picking on other people. It's not right.
Yeah, they right. I think the world needs more people like you, man. Do what's right.
Yeah.
Just do what's right. Help people out. Do the right thing. At what
Hmm.
point in your young life did you realize you want to join the military? I know you said you're probably second generation. Some of your family, your
Hmm.
mom's family already joined. At what point were you thinking, all right, it's time for Steven to join the army?
So I'm actually probably third or fourth generation
Nice.
military. Um but my dad wasn't in the military. But his dad was in the National Guard. My mom's dad was in the Army. You know, and then my great grandfather was in the Army as well. And then I have two uncles that were Army and Marine Corps. So, what made me want to join the military? I guess the reason why I joined is, I mean, first off, to escape the situation that I was in, to
Mhm.
try to better myself and get out of a bad situation. But also, I don't know, I felt a sense of duty, just a responsibility to my country. I also felt a sense of pride in it as well, following the footsteps of my grandparents, and and I don't know. My dad used to take us to air shows when I was younger, and I always used to see the Blackhawks there. And I always had a passion for helicopters. I loved helicopters, absolutely loved them. So that's what drove me to actually pursue being a 15 Tango. Was my love of the Blackhawks specifically.
Did you always know you want to join the army or just the military?
Just the military. I actually went to the Marine Corps recruiters when I first started talking to recruiters. I uh, I just there's something about the Marine Corps esprit de corps that's just different. Their pride in their uniform and everything, and that's what I sought. But I found a lot of pride in the Army uniform. I found a lot of pride in my service that I did in the Army.
Hmm.
Also, the fact that I got to choose my job and work on Blackhawks. There's a lot of pride in that as well. It was actually pretty funny. 6 months after I joined the Army, um, the Marine Corps actually called my mom looking for me because they wanted to recruit me. So they actually called and asked where I was, and she told them I was off training in the Army.
When you made from the point you talked to that Marine recruiter to the Army recruiter, how much time difference was that?
Maybe a week.
A week?
Hmm.
Now let's go back. I know you told me that you didn't graduate from high school.
Yes.
So how did that process work with the reason why you didn't graduate and then you getting your GED and if that bothered the whole enlistment process?
So one of the schools that I went to after I left the Christian Boarding Academy was non-accredited. So when I was looking at going back and completing high school, I would have had to go back a couple grades
Mm.
and redo stuff. And I just threw my hands up, said I'm not going to do it. I went to work. I was working at McDonald's, and then I went off to work in New Orleans after Katrina, working on the levees, rebuilding them and stuff.
How was that
Um,
experience?
that was Man, that was pretty it was a pretty awesome experience, honestly, to be 16 years old, out there by yourself in a whole different state, several states away from, where you grew up. And I mean, being out in the heat of Louisiana, especially New Orleans, and working as hard as I was working, pouring grout, pouring concrete, setting up stuff to pour concrete. I mean, it was hard work, but it was good. It was good for me to experience that, to experience hard labor, especially at such a young age. But I was never one to shy away from hard work or working
Mhm.
outside. My dad always made sure that um, we were okay with working outside and doing hard labor.
How did you pull that off at the age of 16 to go to a whole nother state and be out there by yourself helping build these levees? How did you pull that off?
So I actually, the guy who owned the business that I worked for, um, he he lived in my hometown. He lived in Cleveland, Georgia.
Hmm.
So I actually went to church with, well, my girlfriend at the time, her best friend, that was her stepdad. So I got to talking to him, and I was like, listen, we got to talking, and he was like, well, I mean, you can come work for me. And so I went out there, I started working for him. He actually took me to a store. He got me some nice Georgia boots that I could wear for work. He bought me work clothes and all this kind of stuff. And I hopped in the truck with him, and we took off for Louisiana.
Damn. That sounds like a great experience. So let's fast forward. You talked to the recruiter. You knew immediately that you wanted to be in aviation, or is that something you had to work for, persuade them, or did they give you any pushback on it?
Oh, they gave me pushback. I knew I wanted to be in aviation. Well, the recruiters didn't give me pushback. MEPS gave me pushback about being a 15 Tango,
Why is
working
that?
on Blackhawks. They said that there was no more positions available, and I told the lady that was sitting in front of me, I said, I will not sign a contract unless I'm getting 15 Tango. I told her I'll get up and walk out. I was like, that's what I want. That's what I'm going to get. I scored high enough in my ASVAB that it shouldn't have been a problem. There
Hmm.
shouldn't have been an issue with giving me that job. So she made a couple phone calls, and finally she said, okay, there's a slot available. We'll get you in. You're done. So from that point on is history.
Let's talk about real quick. I want to backtrack real briefly. You're building the levees. At what point did you realize I need to join the army? And what happened after you were building those levees?
So when I was building the levees, I quit that job because I actually got in a fight with this 23-year-old guy that was working there.
Hmm.
He started yelling at me one day. I threw a cement rake in his face, and we got in a fight. So I told the owner, I was like, "Listen, I'm sorry, I can't work with this guy." So I went back to Georgia. My mom had moved to Conyers with her new husband, so I went and lived with them. I started working at Moe's Southwest Grill in Conyers, Georgia. And then that's when I got into drugs. And it started off, I was, smoking weed, stuff like that. And then I started getting into harder stuff. And then my mom and stepdad got tired of it. So we didn't get kicked out. My stepbrother and I moved out into our own apartment.
Hmm.
Um, and then the drug escapade just kept on rolling and stuff. And so I just found myself in a bad spot. And I actually woke up and called my mom, and I told her, I was like, I'm done with this. I don't want anything else to do with it. I know I'm going down the wrong path. She told me, she was like, I'm sorry, you can't move back in here. So I went and lived with my grandparents and back in Athens, Georgia.
Hmm.
And it was when I went and lived with them and I was working for my uncle doing grading, um, that I realized, you know what? I think getting my GED and joining the Army is probably going to be my best course of action. Um, so I detoxed, I started running, I started doing push-ups, sit-ups, training my body, getting myself mentally prepared. I got my GED, easily got my GED. It was like a couple weeks.
Hmm.
And then uh, from that point on, I went and talked to a couple recruiters. My grandfather went with me, and yeah, I got on the fast track program to start basic training and shipped off to Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Yeah, that's great. How do you think? How important was that for that army to afford you that opportunity to change your life?
It was extremely important. Extremely important. I actually, when I was first went into the Army recruiters, they had me take a drug test. I actually failed that first drug test because things were
Mm-hmm.
still in my system.
Mm-hmm.
He told me, he said, "All right, continue detoxing." I told him I'd been working out. I hadn't taken anything, all that kind of stuff. And he was like, "All right, we'll come back in like 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll redo the drug test. And if you pass, then we'll go ahead and push you through." So I did pass second time. We went off to MEPS probably a week or two later, and then did good on my ASVAB, and probably I think it was maybe a week, maybe two that went by after that, and I went off to MEPS to be shipped off to Fort Jackson.
Nice. And that's where you did basic at Fort Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, if there's a young person listening to this show today and they're living that life, they're dealing with the drugs, just a rough growing up, what advice would you tell that young person about joining the military and how it changed your life?
I would say don't give up on yourself. Also, if you think that there is anyone who doesn't care about you, I guarantee that there is someone that cares about you. There is always someone that cares about you. And join the military. It will give you self-confidence. It'll give you what you need to push through that. It'll give you motivation, self-confidence, determination. It'll give you a purpose as well. I've been there. I know in those situations you feel like you're just kind of floating through life. You feel like you don't have a purpose, like you're going nowhere. But being in the military will give you purpose. It'll give you a job. It'll give you the education you need to better yourself as well. It'll also give you a career for the future.
Nice.
So
So you get to basic. Any culture shock? How are you feeling? Nervous? You're there now. What's going on?
honestly, when I showed up in reception, I showed up in, I don't know, it's kind of like summer camp, I guess. Reception was real easy. I mean, we had some stuff we had to memorize. We had to do formations and stuff. You didn't have drill sergeants. They weren't screaming in your face in reception and all that kind of stuff yet. So, I mean, we had seen drill sergeants, um, but we hadn't experienced them ourselves.
Hmm.
So that first week in reception wasn't too bad. Um, I would say the moment we got on the bus with all of our stuff and headed towards our barracks with our drill sergeants, that was that was when I woke up. That was when I realized, okay, it's game time. Like
Hmm.
it's time, you know. But I don't know if I would say I was nervous. I would say more excited to see what was going to happen. I've always been more of an athletic kind of person, so I enjoyed the working out. I enjoyed the physical aspects of it. Um, so it really wasn't that bad for me.
How old were you when you went to basic?
I was uh I was 18 in reception, and I turned 19 the day that I went into actual basic training.
Did the drill sergeants know that?
Yeah, the lady at reception made sure that they knew.
Extra push-ups for you, huh?
Oh, extra everything.
Love it.
extra everything.
What were you doing at? What were you doing 9/11? How old were you?
Uh, During 9/11, I was in sixth grade. When we heard about it, I was in homeroom, and they rolled in the TV, and we didn't know what was going on. We just knew they rolled in the TV. Some of us were like, "Is it like, are we watching a movie or something?" You know, so we were sitting there. They turned on the news, and it was surreal. Honestly, like I never thought, I guess, that I would ever see anything like that. An attack on American soil
Hmm.
like that. I guess like a Pearl Harbor like level attack,
Hmm.
except it's civilians and not military.
Yeah.
It was devastating. I didn't know what to think. Honestly, we were all just kind of went through the rest of the day in shock. They didn't I don't remember them sending us home. I don't think
Yeah.
we went home. We just continued on with our day in school.
Yeah, it was a different time back then. Not just hearing you say that, if something to that level were to happen now, I don't even think they'd allow the sixth graders to watch it on TV,
Oh no.
and then they'll definitely just send them home, right?
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's crazy how things have changed so much in we're talking about 20 years now, 20 plus years.
Hmm.
What was the most challenging thing about basic for you?
Hmm. That's a good question. I would say I've never been an academic person. I would say the academic aspects of basic training were my most challenging times. Not and not like the land nav stuff. I was in Boy Scouts growing up. Land nav, I already knew land nav. It was pretty simple for me. But just memorizing regulations, memorizing procedures and stuff, that was the most difficult part.
What was your most memorable time about basic?
Mm. I would say either it was FTX or the gas chamber.
Good old gas chamber. I think that's a memorable moment for everybody.
I think it is too.
Man, I hated that place.
I actually didn't mind it. It didn't really affect me too much. They made me go in twice.
Why is that?
Yeah. The first time it didn't really hit me that hard. I don't know if it's where I was standing or what. But I didn't come out. I didn't have a whole bunch of snot and drool and all this kind of stuff coming out. I just walked out and started walking around, and they called my drill sergeant from my platoon saw me, and he's like, hold on. He's like, come here. So they made me stand a little closer to the can,
Hmm.
um, and I got the full effect then. So
Nice.
yeah.
Did you get any honor grad, any accolades at basic?
No, I did not. I was PG for my platoon for a little while.
Hmm.
Um, And when I say for a little while, I mean like a little while. I was a little I guess people didn't like me too much. I had requested from our drill sergeant that um to to do like physical fitness during our free time.
Hmm.
So I was that guy. I would throw on my body armor and go run around the barracks during
Okay.
our free time. Like Yeah, I was wild back then, but I was looking to get in shape. I was looking to better my life. I had goals in mind, so that was my thought process.
All right. So they were probably thinking, sit your ass down somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So you leave basic, you go to where do you go for AIT?
I went to Fort Eustis, Virginia, for AIT. That was a pretty good experience as well. I did struggle with academics a little bit there, but before I actually started class, I got my wisdom teeth pulled,
Hmm.
all four at one time. Um, and I actually almost didn't start class because they said that I couldn't work on the floor if I was on painkillers, which the doctors didn't really give me painkillers. They just gave me ibuprofen.
Hmm.
Um, so I completely stopped taking them. My mouth was like throbbing in class. But I made it through. I finished it. So it was a good time though.
You struggled there academically as well?
I did at one point. I can't remember exactly what subject I struggled at,
Hmm.
but I had to retake. I retook one test. But other than that, I did great. Once I got on the floor and started doing the practical exercises, it was I aced everything.
Hmm. What do you think was your biggest takeaway from AIT?
I would say my biggest takeaway from AIT was that working on helicopters is an extremely dangerous and precise uh, job. It's very technical, very important, and you cannot take it lightly.
At what point did you realize you were going to go to Fort Campbell?
Actually, originally I'd gotten orders for Fort Riley,
Hmm.
but I actually was able to swap with another classmate of mine, and he took Fort Riley and I took Fort Campbell, and I wanted to go to 160th, because the 160th, I think it was a recruiter that came, Derek, on your podcast with him. He had mentioned that they
Hmm.
came and talked to some guys there, and I tried to get an audience with them to talk to them about it as well, but I was in class when they came, so I wasn't able to do that. But I'd actually I tried to go 160th, but I'd gotten denied for some reason. I can't remember why, but honestly, I think it worked out for the best. My time with Medevac is absolutely just an amazing time, and I
Hmm.
wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So you leave Fort Eustis, you get to Campbell. Did you want to switch those duty stations, or was the other person that wants to switch?
We both mutually wanted to switch those duty stations. He was from around that area. And me being from Georgia, I kind of wanted to go back to the southeast.
Mm,
Um, I still wanted to kind of be close to family, as close as I could be.
yeah.
So,
With everything going on with your family, what made you want to go back?
I still love my family. I still
Mm,
love them, and I still wanted to have a relationship with them. Um, Especially my mom, my grandparents. I still wanted a relationship with my dad. So I still yearn for that, and I think that's what drove me to want to go back to the southeast.
hmm. So when you get back to, well, when you get to Campbell, what happens?
So I went to Delta Company, 6th Battalion, in the 101st Combat Aviation Brigade, and I started working on Blackhawks. We were doing the engine mods, turning them from 700s to 701s,
Mm,
and on the alpha models. And so I was put on the task of removing and installing engines. That was my first task at my first duty station. So that was what I was doing day in, day out. Is just doing that. I would periodically be sent out to do, or the medevac guys would have us come out and wash an aircraft if we weren't doing anything. We would wash an aircraft with them because they were shorthanded. So that's kind of what I did for a good, I would say, 6 months while I was there in Delta Company, and then the medevac guys kind of started a relationship with them. They put in a word that they wanted us over there, so we got pulled over.
what year did you get to Fort Campbell?
2009, the beginning
2009.
of 2009. Yeah,
Well, how old are you? What were your rank when you showed up?
I was a private second class when I showed up to Fort Campbell, and then while I it wasn't until I went to Charlie Company that I got PFC.
How did you feel when you found out that you were going to go to the medevac?
I was excited. I was real pumped about it. And uh, I'd always wanted to fly on a helicopter. I'd never flown on a helicopter before. I'd only flown in an airplane maybe 3 times in my whole life. So flying was a new thing for me, pretty much. I was excited about it, but also terrified, because I grew up. I always had a fear of heights. I hated roller coasters growing up. So I don't know. Maybe I was crazy, and I just wanted to get over that fear.
So you show up to the medevac. Was it a quick? before I get there, did you know when you went to the medevac that you were getting deployed?
I knew when we were in Delta Company, we already knew that we were going to be deployed. With like everybody was getting deployed. Uh, I think it was a year out. We were a year out from being deployed. Whenever I went over to Medevac, so I already knew that I was getting deployed. I don't think I understood the gravity of what the Medevac did and what that mission set was like when I first got there.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I did know that we were getting deployed, and I was pretty excited about it. I was pretty excited to see a different part of the world.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to become RL1?
I did not become RL1 until we were in Afghanistan. I had started training, doing the academic portions with Sergeant Hugler back in the States, and studying the Dash 10 and all the other stuff that I needed to study. And uh, yeah, I had finished up. Sergeant Helfrich finished my RL progression in Tarankout, Afghanistan.
So you get to Afghanistan. You're what, 19 years old now?
At that point, I was 20.
20 years old, first deployment. How are you feeling once you get off that plane in Afghanistan?
When I first got off the plane in Afghanistan, I was a little nervous. I was pretty excited though. Um, I had never been to a desert before.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting like just I guess something more like Iraq, I guess. But instead there was trees, mountains, beautiful mountains. It was different. Well, excuse me. Kandahar was not like that. No, Kandahar is more desert.
Mm-hmm.
Kandahar is definitely more desert. So the first deployment, yeah, it was a lot of desert and uh, very dry and hot.
What was your
But
initial was your initial impression? Were you nervous, anxious, or were you just ready to get the show on the road, get to your outpost, or did you stay on Kandahar itself? What happened when everything started moving?
so I'm trying to remember when we first got there. We were in Kandahar for maybe a week or two, and then we went up to Tarankout and got settled in up there. On Tarankout, we were on the Special Forces compound. Is where we stayed. The medevac guys did. So that was a pretty cool experience. Staying on a Special Forces compound.
What platoon were you part of?
Then I was part of first platoon with Captain Rubshow, Sergeant Cox, oh, Sergeant Minor, um, and Captain Cuteman, Johnny.
What was your most memorable moment about that deployment?
My most memorable moment about that deployment, I would say it was my first ever live hoist mission. My first memor it was It was a pretty difficult mission. It took us a long time. I'll say that. I was on there with Sergeant Minor. It was myself. Um, it was Tyson, and I can't remember who the PC was, but we had flown out. It was probably a 30-40 minute flight to our destination because we didn't land. We came to a hover between two mountains, and in front of us, because of the wind direction, we could not face an open area. So we
Mm-hmm.
were actually facing a cliff that was in front of us. So we had two mountains, a cliff. If anything went wrong, like single engine failure or anything like that, we were done.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way out of it safely unless we had fuel to get out of there. Um, so we're probably, I don't know, 200 plus feet above where our patient is. And this is my first live combat hoist. I'm a private, I'm 20 years old, and I am nervous and scared out of my mind. Because not only am I scared of heights, but I have to lower this man who is, you don't know if old Miner's gonna be mad at you, if he's gonna be joking around with you. You know Miner, he's wild, man. He was wild. But
And he's a big dude, so I,
yeah, and I mean so he gets on the JP, and he's standing in front of me. He's got this big old wad of dip in. He's like, let's do it. And so I start lowering him down. Oh man, I get him probably halfway down. The cable starts oscillating, and I mean it is bad. He's probably going in a 20-foot circle, and I'm trying to control this thing. I bring it back up. I get him going back down. Finally, he is going down pretty straight, no oscillation. But I probably have. I'm looking at an area about this big to put him down in, and he's probably about this big, and he's doing this, and there's a river right next to it. There's a tree on one side, so I got to worry about the cable getting hung up in there, putting him in the river. But I finally get him down there. It's been 45 minutes. We've been trying to do this, get him on the ground. I'm talking about a long time.
that is a long time.
And on top of that, I just remembered we had a these guys that were doing a documentary, and they're on the aircraft with us. And he's videoing and taking pictures of this entire ordeal. So finally I get Miner on the ground, and he gets the patient in the sled, hooks up to the cable. I get the patient up. Luckily I didn't have any issues with oscillation. He's Miner's holding the tag line.
Hmm.
Everything's going good. I get the patient in, get Miner back up. We get in, good to go. We get out of there, luckily no issues. And we're getting close to base. I mean, we're pretty much on bingo fuel.
Hmm.
We're cutting it close. But we get back, we land, get gas. I mean, we're all sweating. Tyson was up front. He was cussing me the whole time, telling me to get Miner on the ground, hurry up, we're running out of gas. Let's go. And we're all shouting at each other, but we got it done. We got it done, and I would say that was one of my most memorable moments, that deployment.
How was your kinetic exposure out there? That first deployment.
Quite a bit. That was a pretty active deployment. We did quite a few. I flew into quite a few live fire um, LZs, hot LZs. We were off to the side, but we had to go get the patient. There was a definite chance that fire was going to be attracted towards us. And then as far as the base getting mortared, stuff like that, that was a pretty not as regular as say Salerno or Shank
Hmm.
was, but it was pretty regular. But it wasn't. There was only I would say a couple times that it was really close to where we were at. There was one time they hit the ice cream container on the SF compound, and the SF guys were pretty mad about that.
Hmm.
They went out pretty pissed off.
Hmm. What was, what was your biggest takeaway from your first deployment?
Um, my biggest takeaway from my first deployment was uh how to handle that type of environment, I guess. Um, Figuring out how to mentally deal with what we saw, and being able to cope with it in the moment and stay in the mission.
Hmm.
Stay mission focused and get the job done. You know, um, we all had dark humor. That was just part of the job. But it was also a way for us to vent and let go of some of the stuff that we experienced.
How, what did you do to deal with everything you were dealing with, and how important was it for you to have those relationships with your battle buddies or the other crew chiefs or medics?
I did not deal with that stuff in the healthiest way. I turned 21 when we were in Afghanistan,
Hmm.
the first deployment, and when we got back, I started a lot of drinking, um, and just trying to stuff everything down. I wasn't exactly I didn't hang out with people a whole lot after that first deployment. I was pretty secluded to myself. Kind of just I kept to myself for the most part. When I was at work, I was myself. I hung out with people. I cut up and had a good time. But when I got back to my room, I just kind of put myself in my own world, I guess. And
Was that the way? Is that how you deal with things, or you just didn't want to deal with anybody?
I don't know. I didn't know how to deal with those things.
Hmm.
So I guess that was my way of coping. I played a lot of video games, lost myself in video games.
Hmm.
And that's what I did was I found another world where those problems weren't an issue. And then I drank myself to sleep a lot of nights too. So
No one was aware that this was going on. You just kept it to yourself.
kept it to myself. Yeah.
You didn't have a roommate.
For a good long while, I actually didn't. I actually had a room to myself, which was pretty rare for a specialist.
Hmm.
But what it was my roommate lived off base. And so I just pretty much had a room to myself. But once they PCS'd, I got a roommate, and then it was a little different. But he was a private. He didn't know anything.
Hmm.
It was different. So
What was your rank this time? You're a specialist by now, or still PFC?
I was a specialist. I got specialist when we were in Afghanistan.
So you're 21. You're in E4. How'd you feel about the army at this time? Were you thinking I'm gonna retire, or are you thinking I'm gonna do my time and get out?
At that point, I don't really know if I was thinking really about my career. I think I was more in a survival state,
Mm.
like just get to the next thing, continue training, continue doing what you need to do. Um, I was in a lot of I was in a pretty dark place as well. So I didn't really think about my career a whole lot.
Hmm.
And I think that's what affected a lot of my behavior at work and stuff. I started slacking off a little bit, um, and avoiding work a little bit, and so that became an issue. But yeah, it wasn't until later on that I started thinking about, do I want to make this career or do I want to get out?
Hmm. How were you feeling when you found out you guys are going back to Afghanistan?
Honestly, I was ready to get back at it. I was ready to get back out there. I was ready to get back into that combat experience. There's nothing like it. It's that high that you get whenever you're going into a mission that nothing else will give you.
Hmm. What do you think drew you to that? Because now you're back at home, you're dealing with this, you're being secluded, isolating yourself from everybody, but you still have the desire to go back to what's created this problem for you. What do you think created that desire for you to get back to it?
I think it was the adrenaline, the
Hmm.
rush of it. I know that it caused a lot of harm, but also had a lot of pride in our mission. I had a lot of pride in being able to go out and save lives and be there for the guys who needed us to be there.
Hmm. So, are you still in first platoon at this time, or did they move you?
So the second deployment, I was in fourth platoon, and I actually started off. I was kind of in limbo, I guess. It sounds crazy, but like fourth platoon is where I was at when we were in the States before I deployed.
Hmm.
And then once we got to Bagram, I stayed at Bagram, and then the rest of the platoon went to Jalalabad.
Why do you think they kept you at Bagram?
I'm not really sure. I think they said they needed the experience up there at the home station for aircraft maintenance and for missions and stuff like that. But the only missions we really did up there were patient transfers.
Hmm.
It was really simple, really easy. Um, I was pretty frustrated about it. I wanted to go to Shank. I
Hmm.
wanted to go to where the action was at. I wanted to be in it. I wanted to, get back in that experience, and I knew that I had the experience to contribute to that. Um, but they said they needed me at Bagram, and they weren't sending me to Shank. They said they had the people there at Shank that they needed there.
Mm.
I know that there was a couple guys that were requesting me to come to Shank, but they just kept saying no. Finally, I went to Jalalabad, which you were there.
Hmm.
And went down there. That was awesome. Had a great time down there. Uh,
When did
went
you
to
get there?
I got there, man, I can't remember. I think it was halfway through the deployment. I went down to Jalalabad
Hmm.
and I finished out the majority of the deployment down in Jalalabad.
How
So
was your experience compared in Jalalabad compared to Kandahar?
very different. Jalalabad was not as active as it was in Tarankout. Um, Tarankout was definitely a lot more there the missions were a lot more aggressive
Hmm.
than in Jalalabad. Most of my experience in Jalalabad was the LZs were cold, everything was clear. We didn't have a whole lot of issues. There was only one mission that really stands out for me that uh, we actually almost fired on these civilians bringing a patient in. And but that's the only mission that really stands out for me, and so it wasn't really as intense, I guess.
Hmm. So you have two deployments under your belt. With that first deployment, second deployment, at what time do you feel you were tested the most? Besides that the hoist, at what time in your young aviation career did you feel like, all right, the Army has now pushed me to a good level or far past your comfort level?
I was definitely my first deployment. Um, Not only did it push me past my comfort level in what I was exposed to during missions, but also with flying in a helicopter and doing maneuvers, combat maneuvers in helicopters, stuff like that. And I guess just figuring out the kind of person that I am. Am I going to shy away from um, the intensity of a situation, or am I going to get the mission done, do what I'm supposed to do, help the medic, protect the medic, and get us back safely?
You felt you were able to do that?
I do, I do. We fortunately we never had any casualties
Mhm.
in our unit on either deployment, and we were extremely blessed to achieve that. And it was definitely something that I think worried us all. Is are we going to hear about you know, somebody losing their life
Yeah.
on that deployment? So
What was your biggest takeaway from that second deployment?
from the second deployment, my biggest takeaway was you don't always get what you want in the military. Um, but I think I got what I needed.
Hmm.
I think that if I was in Shank, I would have probably I might have been too far gone, I guess. Too far in a dark place. I could have experienced a lot of bad things that would have made it even worse. Um, I do think that my time in Jalalabad was good. I learned a lot, um, and I had a lot of good leadership there as well. Um, so I think it was good, but it was good for me to learn that, in the military, no matter how bad you want something, you know, when they say, no, this is what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm. What was your most memorable time on that second deployment?
Um, I don't know. I guess just hanging out on that front porch on the flight line, just shooting the breeze with everybody, and just having a good time. Definitely not the flies at Jalalabad. That was definitely not something that I want to remember. But yeah, yeah. I think it was just my most memorable time. That second deployment was just hanging out with people. Um, the most memorable time that would be mission wise, I would say, would be responding to the Moscow in Shank. That was tough. And that was when I was in Bagram.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just transporting patients, it seemed like it would never end. And it was tough.
What was your initial reaction when you got there to Shank? Because I remember getting down there myself, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is."
Yeah, I was I was just I don't know, I was lost. I mean, the amount of damage and just chaos that happened was just wild. Um, but yeah, it was difficult because I mean, I remember when we got back, we found out that the 82nd MEDEVAC guys that we were replacing had lost a couple of their people
Mm-hmm.
in that, and yeah.
When you get back from Afghanistan the second time, how were you feeling then?
Um, say I wasn't in as dark of a place as I was the first deployment. Um, I would say I definitely hung out with people a lot more. Went out and had a good time. Um, I was a lot more interactive with friends and just and going to see family and stuff too. It was there was a lot of weekends where I mean I didn't have a mileage pass, but I still went and saw family and all that kind of stuff and prayed to God I made it back without any issues.
What do you think caused that shift for you to open up and start, getting along with people and
I think that I needed I needed to realize that just bottling up and being a hermit wasn't good for
mm-hmm,
me. You need a community.
yep,
Everybody needs a community. That's what we are. That's how we're created. We're created to have a community, to interact with other people. We naturally long for that, and I think that's what I was missing. And I think a lot of the time that I spent hanging out with people during the deployment really helped me realize that that's where I needed to be.
mm-hmm. How long did you spend at Fort Campbell?
I was there for 5.5 years.
So those are your two only, not two only, but those are your two combat deployments.
Yes, yeah.
So what do you do after you leave Fort Campbell?
So originally, before the government shut down, um, it was what was that? That was 2014 when that happened. I was supposed to go to Germany. I was supposed
Mm-hmm,
to go to Wiesbaden, and those orders got canceled because the government shut down. And then after that, I got orders to go to Egypt, um, to Sinai,
mm-hmm,
and so I went off to Egypt. I only had orders for a year. But while I was out there, I put in a in place extension, and I stayed there for another year.
What made you want to stay 2 years in Egypt?
Man, honestly, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of good people out there for my first year, and it was a good time. It really was. We got to go to Israel, and go see how beautiful. I mean, beautiful country, absolutely beautiful. And it was an experience, And honestly, I didn't mind being out in the desert.
Hmm.
It seemed comfortable to me at that point.
While leaving Fort Campbell, what was your biggest takeaway from Fort Campbell?
My biggest takeaway from Fort Campbell, I guess, would be that I can achieve a lot more things than I thought I could. That I can go past my comfort zone. I can break those barriers, and I can also better myself.
When you get to the Sinai, were you in North Camp or South Camp?
So the first year I was in North Camp. Second year I was in South Camp. So I spent a lot of time in both.
Hmm. What was your most memorable moment in Egypt?
My most memorable moment was I woke up early one morning. I was on my way to the gym to go work out before work, and I was walking across the football field at North Camp, and all of a sudden I hear a whistle, and it was mortar rounds coming in. And it just so happened, as I'm walking across the football field, the mortar round goes straight into the gym and just blows up the weight room. So I was like
This happened
minutes
in Egypt?
away. Yeah, this happened in Egypt.
Damn, what year
Yeah.
was this?
This was 2015.
Damn, I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, yeah. It was Muslim Brotherhood was active out there, and they were mad at us because we picked up some of the Egyptian army guys and took them to Cairo
Mm,
on a medical transport. So they started mortaring us. Um, so I was like minutes away from being dead.
hmm.
Luckily, nobody else was in there. I would have been the first person in that gym. But when that happened, I turned around, I booked it back for the room and got my stuff ready. And obviously, we all had to go to the company building and do a head count.
Hmm. How did that change the experience at Egypt? Because that's pretty significant.
It put me back in that combat mindset.
Hmm.
It made me realize, like, hey, all the fun and games is over. I think we're at that point where it's going to be serious from here on out.
What was your biggest takeaway from Egypt?
Biggest takeaway from Egypt. I don't know. I really don't know. I mainly in Egypt. I did my job, and I got in a little trouble out there, but it didn't like destroy my career or anything like that. Um, but I think my biggest takeaway from Egypt is to do your job, and don't don't do dumb stuff.
Were you still a specialist by then, or did you make E5?
I was a sergeant out in
You're
Egypt. Yeah, I made sergeant in Egypt.
nice. So where'd you go after Egypt?
After Egypt, I got orders to Hunter Army Airfield, where I started my ETS
Now,
process
now, when you got there, at what point in your army career did you realize, all right, I'm getting out, I'm not staying for my 20?
when I was in Egypt.
You had enough
Yeah,
by then?
I did. I did. Honestly, I almost changed my mind when I was in Hunter Army Airfield. Originally, I went to the MEDEVAC unit at Hunter, and I was looking at taking a PT test. I was gonna, re-enlist. and I was gonna continue my career. But they told me, they were like, "Oh, sorry, since you're ETSing, you got to go to Delta Company." And when I got over there, I mentioned it to my first sergeant while I was there, and he mentioned it to the commander, and they barred me from reenlistment.
Hmm. Were you
Um,
were you in your
so
90-day window?
no, no, because I'd already talked to the reenlistment NCO,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "All right, we got to do this like now, to get you, reenlisted." And he went and talked to the commander, and the commander was like, "No, he came here to ETS. That's what he's gonna do."
Damn.
Yeah, they were on a war path on kicking people out, even though they were about to go on a deployment. They were just, I mean, I knew there were at least 5 or 6 guys that I was in charge of when I was I worked in the tool room in Delta Company since I was ETSing,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all being kicked out, um, and everything by this first sergeant and commander. Even though they wanted to stay in, they were trying to figure out ways they could stay in. So,
How did you feel once they told you that you're not gonna be able to stay in the army?
oh, I was mad. I was real mad because I had started talking to special forces. I
Mm-hmm.
started getting a packet together. I was training for it, and everything, but I was mad for a little bit. But then I really sat down. I thought about it, and I really wanted to start a family as well. And I thought about it, and to start a family and go into the special forces or to be in the military is very difficult. It's a very
Mm-hmm.
difficult thing. And I think God had other plans for me.
Yeah.
And I praise God for, I guess, kicking me out of the military, um, when he did, because I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have almost 2 beautiful daughters.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be here right now talking to you
Yeah.
either.
So you get put out the army. What happens after you get out the army with you? What do you do?
So I moved back in with my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I start going to school. I went to a 2-week crash course to get my AMP license, and then so I did that. I got licensed, and I started working for a company called Endeavor
Mm-hmm.
in Atlanta. It's a subsidiary of Delta Airlines. So I started working on commercial aircraft in Atlanta at the airport.
Nice.
So I worked there for just about 2 years. And then I met my wife, and I took a job in Macon, Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and started working for a company called Embraer.
How'd you meet your wife?
We actually met on Christian Mingle.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Nice.
we met online, and we hit it off. She actually wasn't too sure about me at first because my profile picture hadn't been approved yet by the admin, and I'd already messaged her, and so it was several days. I waited for a message back, and she didn't message me back until that profile picture was approved, and then once she messaged me back, I I tried to get her on a date, going to like a Braves game or something like that. Something real cool that would be
Yeah.
really exciting. But she was like, "I don't know about going with a stranger to a Braves game." So,
Your wife has that situational awareness. That's a great.
yeah.
What was the biggest difference between Army aviation maintenance and now working in the airline industry as a maintainer? What was the biggest difference?
Oh man. It's there's so many differences. I would say the standard of maintenance is different. And honestly, the publications really aren't that different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, unless you're in the Air Force. Their publications are wild. Like I don't even know who came up with their publications, but they're wild. Um, but yeah, between the Army and civilian publications, they're pretty much the same. I would say the biggest thing that I realized in um, civilian maintenance, man, I don't want to like lay it out like that. Um,
Was all right, let's do it like this.
There's a lot of tricks of the trade in civilian maintenance.
Was the standard in the arm? Which one has a higher standard, the army or the civilian?
Army.
Oh, okay. We'll leave it at that for the interpretation. When you met your wife, did you know that? Well, what do you do right now?
I'm a stay-at-home dad.
Stay at home dad, which I think is
Yes, sir.
is pretty legit. I mean, me having me raising my 5 year old now and just being a part of her everyday life is something that I don't want to change for anything, man. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it is so good being dad and just being there all the time, and
Oh, it really is.
building that relationship with your daughters. Plus, I tell men, our daughters love us differently, man. It's
Hmm.
a lot of moms get mad, but little girls are naturally daddy's girls. They love their daddies. It's
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I gotta give it. I mean, stay-at-home moms, they got tough. Y'all got
yeah,
tough. Stay-at-home moms. It's a different kind of world. I mean, making sure that everything around the house is done, making sure that you're getting dinner cooked, and you're taking care of your little ones and everything. It's a difficult task, but man, I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
what does your wife do?
She is a chaplain in the Air Force.
Nice. So you're now you went from being in the military, now you're a military dependent.
That's right.
How do you like it?
Dependopotamus. Man, I like it. It's tough. It is tough. There's a lot of things that I get pretty frustrated about
Mhm.
with kind of how the Air Force is, with how work things are with her. But it's the mission that she has is extremely important,
Mhm.
and it's not something that we take lightly. It's something we have a lot of pride in, and that is her calling.
Yeah.
God has called her to do that, and I'm extremely proud and honored to support her in that.
Yeah. Did you have any struggles transitioning out of the army?
Um, yeah, I did. I did. Dealing with civilians, um, guys, not veterans. Veterans, I mean, they understand, they
Mhm.
get it, but civilians who never served, there's a lot of discipline issues. There's a lot of things that I had to work through, especially working with them in aviation. Um, and I mean, even in building relationships with friends and stuff like that, it was difficult because you can't have this dark humor that we had
Mhm.
in Medevac. It's difficult. I found myself being able to be friends more with firefighters and medical personnel. That's a lot easier than just some office job Joe that
Mhm.
just doesn't get all of it.
Yeah. How was your mental health when you got out the army?
Bad. It was pretty bad. I was angry at most everybody. Um, I had a lot of issues with our country and where it was headed.
Mhm.
I had a lot of issues with how people acted, the amount of disrespect and the amount of just lack of situational awareness that
Yeah.
people have in society. And it took me, I mean, I'm still working on it, honestly. But to get to the point that I am now, it has taken me, I mean, how many years has it been since 2017?
Mhm.
It's taken me this long to get somewhat better at it, and to not just be angry at people cutting me off in traffic, or
Mhm.
mm,
What are some things you did to help you with these anger issues, mental health issues? What are some things you did?
so I sought counseling, which was a big thing. Also, I see a psychiatrist from the VA,
Mhm.
but I mean, that's appointed to me, just because of my rating and everything. So, but I see a counselor. I've really started trusting in the Lord. Sought a relationship with Christ, and gave him all of my burdens.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is just uh, having faith that he's got it, and also talking to my wife about things, and also she's a licensed counselor as well, so she is really equipped to, I guess, understand why I respond to things sometimes the way I respond. Less right now because she's pregnant.
Mhm.
But I really, the biggest thing that's helped me is my faith,
Mhm.
and having a good community of believers around me, and also having you guys, having friends from the military, guys that have been there, guys that have been through it. If I ever need somebody to call, I got y'all.
Yeah. How important do you think that is for any veteran? I would say I notice a lot of us in the military, we may not have that strong connection with our families, so we realize a lot of our brothers or sisters in arms are our family. So how important is that to keep those relationships to those people that may be feeling isolated right now?
It's extremely important. I think those are probably some of the most important relationships that you can maintain, because your family. I mean, if they've been to combat, they would know.
Hmm.
They would be able to. They would be able to help you, I guess, a little bit, or you'd be able to talk to them about it. But like in my case, it's none of my family really understands the level of trauma that we've experienced in our military career, and I don't think explaining it to them would benefit me either.
Hmm.
Um, and it was difficult for me to come to terms. It's not really come to terms, but to maintain those relationships with friends that I served with when I got out. Um, I didn't talk to a lot of guys for years. I mean, heck, we didn't see each other until Danny's funeral. That
Hmm.
was the last time that or the first time we'd seen each other in years.
Yeah.
Um, and but it's extremely important. Derek and I are the closest out of all of the friends, and then there's Corey McElhatton. Um,
You
and
and
so
Derek always been close though, even in the army.
we were always close. We were always good buddies. And yeah, we need to talk more than we do now, but we're both pretty busy. I mean, I've got my girls and everything, but we talk every now and then. But yeah, we've always been pretty close. I mean, we came over to Charlie Company. I was right behind him
Hmm.
coming over to Charlie Company. So
Yeah. I know when I got out, it took me about 10 years to really get comfortable to start talking to people again and reaching out and even doing this podcast. So I do get, and a lot of people that I'm talking to, they all experience the same thing. They needed that time away from the army to decompress, get their mind clear. So it is a very, very common thing. What was the happiest moment for you in your military career?
my happiest moment in my military career was when I came over to Charlie Company. That was my happiest moment. I think. Just it was a dream of mine to work on and fly on Blackhawks,
Mhm.
and that was my dream come true. From the moment I was probably like 6 years old. I told you about my dad taking us to air shows and seeing the Blackhawks there. So that was definitely my happiest moment.
Nice. What key lessons or takeaways do you hope listeners will gain from your story?
I think the most important thing to take away from this story is there's always somebody who cares about you. There's always somebody that you can talk to. There's communities for veterans. There's communities for anybody who needs somebody to talk to. There's always somebody that loves you. Um, God loves you.
Hmm.
Christ loves you, and He is always there, and He will always be pursuing you. All you have to do is call out,
Yeah.
and He will answer.
You have any regrets in the army?
Um, I would say no, I don't, because everything that I've done in my life, everything that I've been through has made me the person that I am today. It's made me stronger. Um, it's taught me lessons that I needed to learn. And I think that God put me through all of that to give me a story to tell
Hmm.
and to share his message.
I like that. What are some hobbies and what are some hobbies or passions you do now that you're a stay-at-home dad? And you're only a stay-at-home dad while you raise your girls to get to school. Is that the plan?
That's the plan. Once they go to grade school, I will be continuing my career in aviation. I did get my bachelor's degree in aviation maintenance management.
Hmm.
So hopefully, I will step into a managerial role and stop turning wrenches and start telling other people when to turn wrenches and what they're doing. So, but that is the goal. And we'll see how that turns out. It honestly really depends on how long my wife stays in. If she stays in for an entire 20 years, um, or if she decides to get out before then. So,
Where's she at right now?
right now she is at I want to say 2 or 3 years reserve time
Hmm.
or active duty time, excuse me. But at total time, she's in about a little over 7 years.
Okay. So she got a good amount of time left.
She does.
How important is it for since you're the dad at home, how important is it do you think one of the parents staying home is for the children?
I think it's extremely important. Honestly, I think that honestly, both parents being around more often
Hmm.
is vitally important to a child's upbringing. A child needs the nurturing side of their mother, but a child also needs the assertive and masculine side of their father. They need that. I don't want to say structure. Moms provide structure as well, but they need that paternal love from both sides.
Yep. I agree with you 100%. I think it's just to add on to, I think dads, I think it's not discipline, but it's what you said, that structure. We just structure things a little bit different. And I think it's very important for us to, especially our daughters and our sons, both our children. I think it's very important and pivotal that our children experience real love from their dad, right? Because you weren't around your dad that often. I didn't have my dad growing up. And now that I'm a
Mhm.
father, I realize that the love that I give my child is something that they need. And if they didn't have it, they would desperately desire it because we are essentially setting the standard for them their entire life. So
Yep,
I tell a lot of men that this is why it's important that we make sure that when we look in the mirror, you love that person you see because this is the person you're going to give to your wife and your children every day. And if you're not happy with that man you see in the mirror, you definitely better work on it. All right.
absolutely,
Because that man in the mirror that you're not happy with, that's the man your daughter's going to marry one day.
absolutely,
So, so,
absolutely.
so if you're not happy with it, you better start fixing it. And there's a lot of ways to
Mhm.
do it. So the first thing I tell guys, start working out. Start working
Oh,
out.
yeah.
You would, and I see here that you like to work out. How often you work out?
My goal every week is to work out, at least 4 to 5 times a week, and I'll usually my workouts will go, anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, so and I usually wait until after my daughter goes to bed, and then
Hmm.
I'll go work out.
How pivotal was working out to your mental health and
Oh,
you fixing that?
it's extremely important. If I don't work out, I kinda go into, kind of a depressive state. I start eating more. I start, my attitude changes. I'm not as energetic. I Working out has been an extremely important activity for me to pursue. And I didn't actually start working out again until about 3 months ago.
Hmm.
I'd actually I'd gained a whole lot of weight, but 3 months ago I started working out again, and man, I'm down 30 pounds, and
Damn, let's go.
yeah, and I'm feeling good about it. Now I'm training for this Spartan race, so
Yeah, we're gonna do the Spartan race in October. I'm
that's
excited.
right.
So, yeah, I agree with you, man. I tell people two things saved my life: my service dog and working out. If
Mm,
it weren't for those two things, I don't know where I'd be right now, but it probably wouldn't be in a good place. But
yeah.
I encourage everyone to work out. Let's talk about this project you and your wife are working on, this small crafting business called Rocky Creek Crafting LLC.
Yes, sir. So my wife, she likes to crochet a lot, a lot. And I'm fairly good with carpentry. I do a lot of big projects, some small projects, stuff like that. But we love going to craft fairs and everything. So she came up with the idea of creating um, a company, and we would have our own booth at these craft fairs and all that kind of stuff. And we also were really big into donating and charity and helping people out. So she created this company, and I help her with the booths at the craft fairs, and also will make things to go along with her crochet items and stuff like that. So it's been an experience. With season being over, that was an experience as well.
Mhm.
Especially doing taxes for a small business was completely different. But it's been pretty fun. We have a online, or we have a website where you can put custom orders in and all that kind of stuff, and she'll make it and everything. But we've been kind of slowing down a little bit recently because of the pregnancy.
Mhm.
So, and then once the baby gets here, I mean, it's going to be really slow,
Mhm.
just and for a while until we can get the baby on a normal schedule and everything. But yeah, we've done a lot for homeless. We've done a lot for abuse and addiction shelters, as well as just churches and just donating to different things.
Their website. What's the name of the website if people want to find you guys?
That is a good question for my wife. I do not have that on hand right now. I want to say it's probably Rocky Creek Crafting. Um, so yeah, I would have to ask her, but
Alright.
yeah.
Yeah, you can send it to me, and then we could put it in the description on the YouTube page. And if people want to check you guys out, that'll just send some traffic your way. I know you guys are not gonna be you're gonna be busy in the next probably 6 months or so, but when things start, you guys get some more free time, you could start adventuring into those, picking up your productivity. What are three words that best describe you?
Let's say loyal father and husband.
How important are those three things to you?
Uh, I mean, other than my relationship with Christ, they are the most important things in my life. There's nothing other than Christ that is more important to me than my wife and my relationship with my wife. And second to that is my relationship with my daughters.
What legacy do you want to leave behind for your family, your daughters?
I want to leave for them, the legacy I would like to leave behind is a solid foundation and relationship with Christ, and what it means to be a disciple and follower of Jesus Christ.
Okay. If you had to go back to the younger Steven, what would you tell him? What advice would you give him?
I would tell him to go to church. I would tell him that relationships are extremely important.
Mm,
Um, that Christ is important. That a relationship with Christ is the most important thing, and that he's going to grow up to be a good father.
mm, that's good. Final words. Anything you want to leave with the audience before we depart today?
I guess I just want to say that I've really enjoyed this podcast and being here with you, Jason. It's been a blessing and an honor to be here, and that if anybody feels lost or in a dark place, that they need to reach out to a loved one, reach out to a church, reach out to someone in your community. There's plenty of programs, plenty of resources, and there's always someone that loves you, and Christ loves you.
Hmm. Well said. Well said. I agree with you 100%. I mean, life, biggest thing I want people to understand, life is a journey. You're continuously going to learn. You're going to, one thing you said, whatever you may believe in, you have to have that connection with God. You have to have those relationships with people. I've learned after 45 years on this earth that relationships are probably the most important thing on this planet because when we leave, the only things we're going to leave behind are memories. So we have to decide what type of memories are we going to leave with the people we love? Are they going to be good or bad? And whatever that is, you'll know what that looks like when you pass away and the amount of people come to your funeral. So I press upon a lot of people, challenge yourselves to be intentional about the relationships you make. That's spiritually, physically, with everything you do. Those things matter. It may not seem like it matters now, especially when we're younger. It seems like, I got all this time. But the older we get, the shorter the concept of time gets. It just gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So I agree with you 100%, man. Just continue to build those relationships. Keep being a great dad, great husband. Those things are going to pay when your kids are in their 20s like mine. That's when you're going to really see what your work with the work and all the, the pouring into your daughters. And the greatest thing about daughters, I say this all the time, they're going to be the ones that are going to come back and take care of you guys.
Yeah.
Sons are gonna go meet their wives and they're gonna go be a part of their wives' family. They'll skedaddle back to their family once in a while, but majority of sons they leave their family and go to their wives' family. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's the nature of the world we live in, right?
Yeah, it is.
But keep doing great things, man. I appreciate you. I hit you up. You responded back fast, and my experiences with you have always been great. Like I said, it's been a while since I saw you, but hell, we're gonna connect in October.
That's right.
Knock out the Spartan run. Is that what it's called?
Spartan race. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do the Spartan race, so we're gonna have a good time with that. But like I said, man, keep up the great work. I'm proud to see where you're at. I'm proud to see that you got over your mental health issues and now you're taking care of your family and you're leading from the front. And the greatest thing is you're a God-fearing man leading your family. And when I meet men like that, it says a lot about them because I know when they're having problems, they know where to go to get the help. Okay. And just keep doing great things, man. I appreciate you. I'm excited to see you in October. Just keep doing great things, man. Just keep it up. Keep being an American badass, bro.
I
And
will.
if you need anything from me, let me know before you get here in October. I'll point you in the right direction. Whatever it is, you need a phone call, call me. You got me on Messenger. You need my number. Whatever it is you need from me, just let me know. I'm here for you. The friendships that we create during combat, it's something I can never explain. And
Hmm.
the only people that could relate with it are the people that were there with us. And I appreciate all you guys for supporting Heroes Have Wings and continue to pour in me and believing in this vision that I'm trying to create for all of us. Because one thing I realized today, I'm starting to realize how I'm bringing everybody together again.
Mhm.
And if that's what God wanted me to do, then that's what I'm going to do. But I want us to all know that we still have this family that we don't have to talk every day or every year, but we know that we're here for each other. And that's what's the most important message I want to put out. And that's what I want to convey to the world, that no matter what, we still got each other, thick and thin. But in
Absolutely.
But in closing, stay bold, stay fearless, resilience wins battles, and story shapes legacies. This is Heroes Have Wings. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. This is my great friend, Stephen Barton. I appreciate you, brother. Until next time, please continue to tune in, share the page, share your stories, subscribe and like, and keep spreading the word so we can keep getting this message out to a bunch of veterans, civilians, and let people know the impact we've had on our society and our country and at what length we go to defend the things that we love here in America. So, you guys, we'll see you next episode, and we're out. Thank you for tuning in to Heroes Have Wings, where we honor the extraordinary stories of grit, sacrifice, and resilience. Remember, every hero's journey starts with a single step, so take yours today. If you love this episode, like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep pushing limits, breaking barriers, and living your truth. I'm your host, Jason Santiago, and this is Heroes Have Wings, where legends rise.